and welcome to my kitchen. I'm demonstrating a chocolate cheesecake that is one of my son Daniel's favorites. He likes anything chocolate, and it's from my one of my favorite books, the Noreen Gillett's Pleasures of Your Processor, which I get a lot of my recipes from. And I've assembled all the ingredients here. One of the interesting things that I found is that the Loblaws brand of stores has these kosher chocolate crumbs that are already pre-ground up, and they are kosher and parv. So just a little note that's nice to have around your kitchen. So in order to start this recipe, first you have to make the base, and I have a springform pan here which is lined with a piece of parchment paper that makes it easier in the end when you want to serve your cake. And so I'll start by making the crust. So you have the 1 3/4 cups of crumbs, or you make it from about an 8-ounce package of chocolate wafers. So if you had wafers, you would just grind them up in your food processor. And you mix that with 1/2 cup of melted butter. Also add some couple of tablespoons of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, which I've mixed together, and I'm just gonna dump that in. And then you just process these for a few seconds to mix it all together. And I'll just go one more time. And then it says to reserve 1/3 cup of crumbs for the topping. So I'll just put a little bit over here. And then the rest can go into the springform pan. Like that. Okay. Do that. So you just flatten it so that it covers the entire bottom of the springform pan. So once you have the crust in the springform pan, you can begin to make the filling. I've washed my food processor bowl and the blade to start making the filling with the ingredients. So the first step is to mix the cream cheese, which you break up into pieces. You mix it with the eggs, with the sugar, which is 1/4 cup of sugar here. And then you mix it with the food processor for about a minute. So once you've mixed the cream cheese and the sugar together for about a minute, you can add the eggs, and then you turn it on again and process them until they're all mixed up thoroughly. So I had 2 packages of chocolate chips, about 6 ounces each. So about 12 ounces of chocolate chips, which I've melted in the microwave at around medium-high power. Don't melt it at the highest power because you have a chance of burning the chocolate chips, but about medium-high power for 30-second intervals until they come together, you know, as a pretty thick, liquidy mixture. So you can, you have your mixture of the 2 packages of cream cheese, the 3/4 cups of sugar, and your 4 eggs. Now I'm going to add my melted chocolate.
It's my favorite.
And my sour cream. Half a cup of sour cream. So you can see why they call this a decadent dessert. Mix this for about 20 seconds and altogether or so, and scrape down the bowl to make sure that everything is mixed in well. So you want to get, you know, a uniform looking mixture. So now that all the filling ingredients are mixed together and poured into the springform pan, I have my reserved crumbs from the base that I'm going to sprinkle on top. You know, try to get it as uniform as possible, but it's not that critical. And once that's done, you're ready to bake your cheesecake in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 50 to 55 minutes. It's So once the cheesecake is baked, you turn off the oven and you let the cheesecake sit in the oven as it cools down for about half an hour. And then you take the cheesecake out of the oven and let it cool completely and refrigerate it. And later on, we'll top the cheesecake. Well, the cake was baked after 50 minutes. Then I let it sit in the oven with the oven cooling for about half an hour, and then I put it into the refrigerator. And this is how it looks. It looks pretty nice. And we can take it out of the springform pan. If you need to run a knife around the edge to loosen it, you can do so. This one came out really well. And then you can put it on a nice platter with the bottom of the springform. And now we're ready to add our decorations to it. So I have half a cup of whipping cream that I'm going to whip up. Now you can whip this up by setting up your food processor on an angle by supporting one end of it with a book, and then it mixes up the whipped cream. But really the preferable way to mix it is with a beater. So you can use either a hand beater like this, or if you have a larger mixer like a KitchenAid, you know, you can do that too. But it's just a little bit of whipped cream that we're going to mix up. And then we're going to add a tablespoon of icing sugar to it just for a little sweetness. So I'm going to mix this up. So when your whipped cream is stiff, as you can see, it's not liquidy anymore, you can add the icing sugar to it and just Mix it together. And then once you have your whipped cream prepared, I have just these little disposable bags with my piping tips. I just picked one of the tips that I have, and you can decorate your cheesecake by putting little flowers of whipped cream all around so that you have one for each piece. This step is optional, of course. And then we can decorate each of the little whipped cream flowers with a chocolate chip. So here's our final product. And you have extra whipped cream, depending on how much you put on the pieces. And the pieces are very rich, so you'll want to serve it in really small pieces. And you have extra whipped cream in case people like to have that on it. So Chag Sameach, and enjoy your cheesecake. So now we're gonna try it. Mm-mm. And here's my guinea pig.
It's very good.
And this is the reason for the cake.
It really is good, actually.
I'm sure it is. The ingredients look lovely.